Hi, this is Jen from the Coordinating Center for the Ginger Study at the University of Minnesota. And I'm just going to run through a very quick demonstration of the specimen collection procedures for the study. So first of all, I'd like to just note that this is not to be shown to a participant. This is for coordinator reference only and should just be used as training guidance. So there are several things you're going to want to cover before launching into the demonstration. First, you need to let participants know that they'll be receiving all the collection materials in a box from the Coordinating Center. And they should go ahead and open this box as soon as they receive it and check over the contents for any missing or damaged items. And they should contact you, the local coordinator, if they do notice that anything's missing or broken. So they want to collect these samples as soon as possible after receiving the box. And they're going to start their study pills that same day, but after they collect their samples. There are some restrictions as far as days of the week that they can be collected, so they're only going to be able to collect those samples between Sunday after 4 p.m. through Thursday before 4 p.m. And that's because of the type of service that we use in our lab operating hours. So another thing to note is if they do collect before 4 p.m., they're going to want to go ahead and pack and ship those samples on the very same day. If they collect after 4 p.m., they'll need to place the stool in the freezer and the urine in the refrigerator. The saliva can stay at room temp until they're shipped the following day. So another thing to note is you're going to want to stress that they should not rely on the memory of your demonstration to complete the collections. They're going to want to review and read that pamphlet over thoroughly before they perform each specimen collection. So another thing to note is that there's a grid on the back. They're going to want to check that to ensure that they've used the proper box and included the proper samples for that particular collection. So I like to tell participants to go ahead and remove the ice packs from each of their kits right away and put them all in the freezer. That way they don't have to wait on an ice pack to be frozen. It's going to be ready to go when they collect their samples. All right, so let's go over the sample collection itself. So I've got a first collection box here. That's what you should have to demo to your participants. It does include all three of the types of collections, the stool, the urine, and the saliva. So they're going to want to remove all the contents here. We've got some gloves, we've got the saliva collection, we've got the urine collection kit, and we've got the stool collection bag here, and a couple of tape strips. So, first things first, go through the saliva collection. And this is actually really easy. The instructions are in the pamphlet as well as right on the back of the package for the saliva collection. So they're going to want to do this collection on the same day as they collect the urine and the stool samples. They should all three be done on the same day, around the same time if possible. So they've got this little funnel contraption, and 10 minutes prior to collecting, they need to refrain from using any oral hygiene products, any tobacco products, or from eating or drinking any beverages other than water. And then 5 minutes before the collection, you're going to want to have them rinse out their mouth with water. So to do the actual collection, they just place the funnel against their mouth and go ahead and collect saliva until it reaches that red line on the tube. And once they've hit that line, they're going to unscrew the tube, keeping it upright from the funnel. And the cap is on the bottom, so they'll actually need to screw the bottom off and then screw the cap onto the top while keeping it upright. And then we want them to go ahead and invert it vigorously about 20 times to go ahead and activate the stabilizer that's already in the tube. Then they can write the date collected on the actual label on the biohazard bag and slip just the tube back into the biohazard bag. And they're going to notice that there are absorbent sheets in each of the bags. We want those to stay in the bags because that's going to prevent any, well not prevent, but contain any leakage or damage during shipping. So they can set the saliva aside. And I like to recommend doing the urine and the stool collection at the same time, but that's certainly up to them. Again, we want them collected as close as possible and always on the same day. So they're going to want to take all of their materials and get them laid out before they actually collect the stool and the urine. So go ahead and remove the tubes. For the stool, there are 3, and they're going to want to take them out of their outer shipping containers and set those aside. And there are 2 tubes that have some liquid preservative and some glass beads, so they're going to want to keep those upright while they have the caps off. So get those set aside and get the urine cup all ready. And then they can prepare the specimen collection system, and you'll be providing this to them at their orientation session. So the reason we only give them 1 is because they are reusable due to the use of these cold water soluble bags. And there is 1 in each kit. We also provide an extra one just in case. If any liquid gets in touch with this, aka urine or toilet water, it starts to break down immediately and turns into a real goopy gloppy mess. So if they run into that, they can just pull the bag, flush it down, and start again with their spare bag. So remove the lid and use the bag to line the actual bucket. It doesn't have to look neat or pretty, just needs to form a barrier between the stool and the bucket so that it can be reused for subsequent collections. So just line it like so. Also important to note that they might not want to collect, actually they do not want to collect if they feel like they're going to have a loose or unformed stool. If there's any liquid component in the stool, it's going to do the same thing as urine or water to the bag, and it's going to start to break down immediately. So once they have the bag lined, you're going to go ahead and have them put the bracket onto the base of the toilet and drop the bag and the bucket right on top of there. And they're going to go ahead and put the toilet seat down. They're going to do the urine collection if they're doing it at the same time first. And there are no special instructions for the urine collection. Just make sure they don't touch the inside of the lid or the inside of the cup once they've opened it up. Urinate into the cup until it's 1/3 to 3/4 of the way full, and go ahead and set that aside. And then they can have a bowel movement as usual, just making sure that it goes into the bag in the bucket. And once that stool has been collected, they can do the actual sampling. So they're going to remove the little brown caps off of each tube, and there is a little scoop attached. And we don't want them to touch that stem or the scoop or anywhere inside again to keep everything sterile until it gets to the lab. So they're just going to simply scoop a heaping scoop and place it into each of the 3 tubes. And the 2 tubes that do have the liquid and the glass beads, we want them to shake it about 10 times pretty vigorously. We want to kind of use the glass beads to agitate and break up the stool and really mix it into the preservative. And then that is it for the collection process. They're going to note the date and time that they collected on each of those bags. They can then remove the cold water soluble bag, place it right in the toilet, flush it down, go ahead and put the lid back on their collection system and set that aside for future collections, and then pack up their samples. Again, a reminder, if it's before 4 p.m., pack and ship the samples right away. If it's after 4 p.m., they can place the stool back into the tubes, into their biohazard bag, put it in the freezer, and place the urine in its bag and put it into the fridge. If they're uncomfortable with that idea, just tell them to try to collect during the day, and that avoids that whole issue. So you're going to take the stool tubes and go ahead and put them back into their shipping containers, like so, and into their bag. That has already been marked with the date and time of collection. And these don't need to stay upright when they pack their box. They're sealed in there, double contained, so they actually fit better if they're kind of laying down. Also good to get all the air out of the bag, makes them fit a little better into the box. So they're gonna place that in there, place their urine and saliva also in there. And then, last but not least, the fully frozen gel ice pack. And then they can go ahead and put the lid on. And again, they're going to want to refer to that grid on the back of the pamphlet just to make sure that they've included the proper samples for that particular collection. And then once they've checked that, they can use the 2 tape strips to remove the back off and just go ahead and seal the box up. And then it's ready to be shipped. And we do use FedEx, and we provide the air bills. There's 3 of them, 1 for each box. And it is pre-filled, everything but the sender information. So they simply need to complete section 1, which is the date that they're shipping it, their name, their address, and their telephone number. And then there are instructions to call FedEx and have them come right out to their homes to collect the box. And they don't need to be at home when the collection occurs from FedEx. They just need to leave it somewhere where the FedEx guy can see it and get at it, and that's sufficient. Alternately, if there is a FedEx location that's convenient to them, they can take it to any FedEx location. Everything's prepaid, they can just drop it off, it's ready to go. So that is it for the first specimen collection. The second collection is identical, except at that point they'll be done taking their pills. So we have included this little marked bag, and what they're going to do is they're going to take any regularly scheduled doses of their study pills that might fall before they do their samples. But once they've collected their samples, we don't want them to take any additional doses. So they're just going to take the bottle and empty the rest of the bottle into this bag and include it with their sample collection. The third sample collection is just stool only, and they will be reminded by you guys when to collect at 6 weeks and 12 weeks. And that is it. So they can call you with any questions, and you can call me with any questions. All right, thanks so much, guys.